After my sister-in-law, Megan, returned from her trip overseas, she quickly came to our house. She seemed in a hurry and immediately reached for my daughter, who was almost a year old. As she grabbed her, she thanked me for taking care of her daughter for a year. This statement alarmed me, and I stopped her, explaining that the child she was trying to take was actually mine, not hers. However, Megan didn't seem to understand what I was saying. Feeling confused and worried, I left her in the yard for a moment. That's when Megan said something shocking that truly scared me. Upon realizing I wasn't joking, her face turned pale. This marked the beginning of a major problem caused by my sister-in-law, a problem that had its roots about a year and a half ago. Back then, Megan, who was 25 years old, unexpectedly returned to her parents' house with a baby. Around the same time, my husband had been transferred abroad for work. Megan mentioned she was worried about raising her baby in a foreign country, especially since everything was unfamiliar to her, and she had just discovered she was pregnant again. She expressed a hope that her child and my child would become friends someday, given that they would be around the same age. Despite the age difference between us, Megan being 2 years younger, she was quite outgoing and had no problem talking to me. I thought we might get along well, especially because she moved back in with her parents, who lived close to us. After I gave birth, my husband, who was 30 at the time, and I lived separately from his parents, and initially, it seemed like Megan and I would have a good relationship. However, my optimism proved to be naive. Once Megan moved back with her parents, she started revealing a different side of herself. One day, she came to me saying, "Kristen, I have an urgent matter and can't take care of my child. Can you look after her?" Feeling sorry for her, I agreed without hesitation. Megan told me her father had thrown out his back and she needed to buy some patches for him. Believing her story, I gladly took care of her baby, but this scenario became a regular occurrence. Megan often found excuses to leave her baby with me. After several similar incidents, I began to suspect she wasn't being truthful. On one occasion, I confronted her saying, "Megan, you're lying to me, aren't you?" She appeared shocked and asked why I would think that. I pointed out that her father had never suffered from back problems. She seemed flustered and struggled to respond, which only confirmed my suspicions. It didn't help that neighbors reported seeing Megan out and about in town when she claimed to be with her child. When I confronted her with this information, she tried to deflect, asking who would have ratted her out. Despite her attempts to manipulate the situation, I was firm in my decision. "Just take care of your own child. I won't be helping you anymore," I told her. Megan reacted poorly to my refusal. She threw a tantrum, acting like a child herself. Then, suddenly, she stopped and smirked as if she had an idea. She cryptically declared, "Fine, I'll make you want to take care of my child on your own." This statement puzzled me, and when I asked what she meant, she just smiled and left without further explanation. I warned my husband and in-laws about Megan's behavior, but my concerns seemed to fall on deaf ears. Megan showed no signs of remorse or understanding. Instead, she appeared to be planning something. One afternoon, while I was resting on the couch, heavily pregnant, I heard a baby crying. At first, I thought it was coming from a neighbor's house, but it sounded too close. Just as I was wondering, my phone rang. Megan was on the other end. "Please take care of my child," she said casually. Frustrated, I reminded her that I had already told her I wouldn't be looking after her child anymore. Megan laughed and told me it was too late because she had already left her baby at my doorstep. Shocked, I rushed to the door to find a crying baby left there. I angrily called her back, demanding to know what she was thinking. Megan seemed to take it all as a joke, telling me that because I wouldn't leave a baby on the doorstep, she had no choice but to make me take care of her child. She hung up before I could say anything else, and her phone was turned off when I tried to call back. Despite my protests and attempts to get her to take responsibility, Megan continued this behavior for months, leaving her baby with me without notice. She even claimed she was doing me a favor by giving me practice for when my own baby arrived. Her actions and attitude caused me immense stress and irritation. but she seemed to expect gratitude. This went on for about 6 months until one day, a year ago, Megan abruptly left a note saying she was going abroad for a bit and disappeared. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. Given her history of spontaneous trips, funded by her part-time job earnings, her sudden departure wasn't entirely shocking. My husband speculated that she had gone to see her husband, who had been transferred overseas. In the midst of all this, I went into labor 2 weeks early and gave birth to our daughter. The chaos of her unexpected arrival and the demands of new parenthood caused our family to lose track of Megan. A year passed without much thought about her, but just as we were preparing for my daughter's first birthday, Megan suddenly reappeared. She walked into our house without knocking, calling out, "I'm back." I was surprised to see her and asked if she had returned from overseas. Ignoring my question, she went straight for my daughter, thanking me for taking care of her child for a year. When she tried to take my daughter, I quickly intervened and told her that this child was mine. Megan looked confused and insisted that just because I had been with the child for a year, I shouldn't act like her mother. Both of us were confused, trying to understand what was going on. I asked her if she hadn't taken her own child with her overseas. She responded, "What are you talking about? I left her in your yard." It became clear that there was a grave misunderstanding, and I realized something terrible might have happened. Megan insisted she had left her child with me when she went abroad, but I had been in the hospital after giving birth and had no idea what she was talking about. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Megan's face turned pale, and she started to panic. She begged me not to call the police, pleading that she would be in huge trouble. I decided to call our family instead, hoping they could help sort out the mess. However, when I turned around after ending the call, Megan was gone. She had fled, leaving us all in shock and confusion over what had happened and where her child really was. After living away from my home, I was shocked to discover just how irresponsible Megan had been. This realization hit me hard, and I felt a surge of anger toward her. The moment that truly pushed me over the edge was when my husband and in-laws rushed to our house after I called them. According to my husband, while I was in the hospital giving birth, there was indeed a baby left unattended in our yard. During that time, my husband had minimal involvement with Megan's child, mistakenly assuming she had taken the baby abroad. Because of this assumption, he called the police to deal with the unknown infant. With all the attention focused on our newborn, the memory of this incident faded from our minds. When Megan returned, her child would have been around 1 or 2 years old, which is close in age to my own child. It's likely that Megan mistook my child for hers because of this age similarity. When we consulted the police about the situation, we learned that the baby had been taken to an orphanage, which was a relief to us. I decided to let my husband and in-laws handle the care of Megan's child. However, what really worried me was Megan's extreme panic. It seemed unusual and out of character. Her reaction made me think there was more to the story, and my intuition proved correct when I decided to take action. It became clear that we needed to teach Megan a lesson. I had a piece of leverage against her that I wasn't sure I would ever use, but given the circumstances, I no longer felt any hesitation. A week later, after making all the necessary preparations, I called Megan. After several rings, she answered hesitantly. I told her, "Megan, your child has been found. You can relax now. Come back home." Believing my words, Megan arrived at our house and rang the doorbell. As she entered our living room, looking relieved, she said, "Phew, I was so worried. Glad she's been found." She laughed carelessly, but her mood quickly changed when she saw who was waiting for her. Seated on the sofa were 2 men, Megan's husband, or rather her ex-husband, Aaron, and her affair partner, Ben. Aaron glared at Megan with a deep frown, while Ben looked on with a pitiable expression, as if on the verge of tears. Megan quickly realized she was in trouble and tried to leave the house, but my father-in-law, a large man, was guarding the entrance, blocking her way out. With no escape, Megan was forced to sit on the floor beside her affair partner, Ben, while she received a stern lecture from my husband, her ex-husband,